We all remember the great kale trend of the early 2000s, but did you know that in Tuscany, this green leafy vegetable has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years? They are way ahead of their time in terms of trending vegetables. So when we were thinking about what to pair with our new Tuscan extra virgin olive oil, we immediately thought to pair it with pappardelle with a kale and garlic sauce topped with toasted panko breadcrumbs. Let's get into it. The type of kale that we're using is called lacinato kale or sometimes dino kale. It's also referred to as Tuscan kale because again, this is a very typical ingredient used in Tuscan cuisine. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove all the hard stems from the center, and you can use a knife to do this and simply cut it out, but I personally think that it's much faster and easier to just use your hands. So you're just going to grab the hard stem at the end and then grab the leaves with the other hand and just pull it off like this. So the first thing we're going to do is blanch our kale leaves in a pot of boiling water, and we're just going to blanch them just until wilted, about 30 seconds. So we're just gonna line a baking sheet with a tea towel and then drop our wilted kale on top of this, just so that all the moisture and the steam can be released. So for the sauce, we are going to blend together some pine nuts, some cheese, some of our kale, olive oil, and garlic to create sort of a creamy, smooth sauce. So to start, we're gonna add our pine nuts. You could also use any other kind of nut that you like. Pistachios, I think, work really nicely in this recipe. We're gonna add in our garlic clove here, some pecorino cheese. This is gonna add a nice salty kick to the sauce. And then we're adding in our wilted kale leaves here. So to start, just blend together all the dry ingredients, and then we'll add the olive oil and a little bit of water as needed. Which is immediately. We're gonna start with about 1/3 cup of olive oil, and then we can add more as needed. And you can sort of eyeball it here. Again, it's not an exact recipe. So we're gonna give it a little taste and then adjust with salt and pepper as needed. Great. So the pecorino adds a lot of salt already to this, so I'm not gonna add any more salt here, but I will add a few cracks of fresh pepper. And then as we cook our pasta, we may add a little bit of pasta water to this as well, just to loosen it up a little bit. To top our pappardelle, we're going to be toasting up some breadcrumbs with garlic and a little bit of salt to add that nice crunchy texture. So to do that, you're going to add just a couple tablespoons of the Toscano olive oil to a small pan, and this is just on medium heat. And then we're going to add in a whole garlic clove, just as is. And this is just going to infuse the olive oil with a little bit of that garlic flavor. So just toast this for about a minute until you start to really smell the garlic. The garlic smells. And then we're gonna add in our panko breadcrumbs and just stir to coat until all the olive oil coats them. Add a small pinch of salt and a little bit of freshly cracked pepper. And we're gonna toast for just 3 or 4 minutes until they're nice and golden brown. You could make a big batch of toasted seasoned breadcrumbs like this and then just store them in a jar in your pantry, and then you'll always have them to top off your pasta with. So this is the color that we are going for, just a nice golden brown. So we're using pappardelle for this recipe, which is a very typical pasta of Tuscany, usually made fresh with eggs and flour. Here we're using dry because it's just a little bit more convenient to find in the supermarket. If you can't find pappardelle, feel free to use any other, long, wide ribbon noodle like a fettuccine would work really well, or really any other pasta that you like. So we're going to cook this in a pot of salted boiling water. Okay, so once the pasta is done, we're just gonna take our tongs and transfer the pasta directly to the sauce. And this is gonna bring with it that nice starchy water, as well as heat up the sauce very gently. And then we will just toss everything to coat. And then we'll top with our toasted breadcrumbs and a little bit of extra pecorino. Add a little drizzle of the Toscano olive oil at the very end. Pappardelle with kale and garlic sauce topped with toasted breadcrumbs. It's garlicky. You can get that pungency from the Tuscan olive oil. The kale is just a little bit bitter, but not too bitter. It's very much mellowed out by all the pine nuts. And I just love the texture of the sauce. It just coats the pappardelle perfectly, as well as the peppery kick from the olive oil. It goes together so well. Thank you so much for making this dish with us today. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below and be sure to subscribe and check out our other recipe videos as well as videos on olive oil cooking tips. And we will see you next time. Ciao.